Right. Now, hi everybody, and welcome to the Climate Launchpad webinar, Innovating Together for a Sustainable Blue Economy. We are so excited to share this with you. Blue economy is one of our themes for this year, so let's get ready for hopefully an inspiring and interesting session. So, first off, let's start with a few small housekeeping points. So the webinar, it will be recorded, as you can see. So if you don't want to be recorded, then please, you can feel free to turn off your camera. That's not a problem. And please also keep your microphone muted. And to help avoid any connection issues, you can make sure you catch everything that we say. Then you can close any non-essential programs on your computer. And because we are sharing the recording of the webinar, then please don't take photographs or screenshots of the presentation. You'll get the full thing afterwards. And if you do have any questions, and hopefully you will over the course of the webinar, then please use the chat box as you come up with them, and we have lots of space to answer them during the Q&A period. So we love to answer questions, and so do type them into the chat box. So let's start with some introductions. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Denise Lee, and I am the project manager for Climate Launchpad and your moderator for today. And Climate Launchpad, then we are a global green startup competition. Climate Launchpad is part of the entrepreneurship offerings of EIT Climate-KIC. So I will refer you to the picture on my left, who is David Watts. He's joining us today, and he will be telling you more about Climate-KIC and its role in climate innovation. And next to him, we have Maria Loloni, who is the Maritime Programme Lead for Climate-KIC and the Blue Economy Specialist, and she will take you through what is blue economy and its challenges, and maybe more importantly, what are the opportunities. We also have a special guest today, who is Polina Vasilenko, and she's the founder and CEO of HelioRec. And she will be giving you the startup view on blue economy and what HelioRec is doing in terms of innovations in the field. So that's a little bit about us and who you will see today. And I'm curious to know now who's in the room. So we're going to run a little poll. So the first one is we'd like to know now, from which region are you joining us today? So I'm launching the poll now. Hopefully you see it on your screen. And just tell us, where in the world are you from? Oh, nice. I see a lot of answers coming in. We're looking pretty international. Any more of you want to tell us about yourselves, where you're coming? All right. Now, we are looking pretty international today. Just sharing where we're coming from today. We've got a few from Africa, Asia, from Europe, of course, North America. Hello. It's morning there for you, so good morning. And South America as well. Good morning. And there you can see it. So now we know where you're from. Now we'd like you to tell us a little bit more about yourself, also via the poll. So who are you and what do you do? So which of these options best describes you? And hello, Toby Grant from Jamaica. Welcome. All right. Yeah, no, actually we're pretty well spread on these options here. Let's give it a few more seconds for some final people to decide now actually which of these options best describes me. And I'm actually very curious about the other. So let's close the poll, see where we are. We've got some students, we've got a lecturer, quite a few entrepreneurs and startups. Great, lovely to see you here. Some working professionals and 2 other. So I'm curious about you 2 others. Maybe you can let us know in the chat, you know, well, which other term perhaps best describes you? So thank you to everybody for telling us a little bit about yourselves. And now we're gonna tell you what your next 2 hours or hour and a half will look like. So as you can see, we're already in it. We're doing the welcome now. Afterwards, we've got David, who will be telling you about Climate-KIC and ClimateLaunchpad. And then after him, we're passing the microphone on to Maria, who will take you through sustainable blue economy. And then we've got plenty of time for all of your questions. After your questions, we've got a short break and then the startup talk, which is HelioRec. And after that, we've got a nice long period for you to ask all of your questions, whether it's about the startups or about what you've heard earlier in the session, and a short wrap up and session close. So I think hopefully you'll agree with me. This is a pretty interesting program. So that's it for me. And I'll pass you on to David.
Thanks, Denise. And I just want to say thanks everyone for being here today. We're really excited for this webinar and to welcome you in. As Denise mentioned earlier, my name is David Watt and I work at EIT Climate-KIC in the strategic programs team. So who is Climate-KIC? Climate-KIC is Europe's largest public-private partnership specifically to address climate change through innovation. And we have a mission to build a net zero carbon economy and climate resilient society. Our core methodology is systems innovation. So this essentially means viewing, rather than viewing problems in isolation, we bring together diverse stakeholders and see the interconnecting links between all the kind of issues that are related to climate change. And we perform coordinated interventions in political and social systems through our innovation portfolio, which is a series of connected innovation experiments. So what does this mean in practice? It means that we need to bring together lots of different people all together. So we're actually now in our network, we have about 2,000 organizations in our wider network. And that's made up of corporates, startups, universities, civil society, and then governments. And when we talk about governments, we're working a lot with city governments, but also with regional and national governments as well. So to give you an idea of the types of activities that we have across our portfolio, we work in entrepreneurship. So this would be an example of that through the ClimateLaunchpad program. So we work with green startups from the ideation phase through to incubation, acceleration, and we're now also starting in the investment space as well. Additionally, we do a lot of work with schools, universities, and young professionals in climate education. We run deep demonstrations where we bring together diverse perspectives of government, industries, business, community leaders, and funders to focus on a single large-scale climate-related problem. We have some social activation activities, so trying to get people and the civil society engaged, and we also work in research and innovation. So to give you an idea of our track record in climate innovation, we've got about 440 formal partners, and as I mentioned earlier, over 2,000 partners in our wider network. We've incubated over 1,800 climate positive startups, and we've actually leveraged over 4 billion euros in climate funding, created about 10,000 full-time jobs, had over 54,000 participants across our education activities, and we've managed a total value of about 550 million euros of funds towards climate-related activities. So that brings us to what is the Climate Launchpad. So when we're looking at entrepreneurship, Climate Launchpad was started by EIT Climate-KIC back in 2014. So we're now in the 9th year of the program. And it is now the world's largest green business ideas competition. This year we are running in about 60 countries. So it's got a really, really big scope across the world. The mission of the Climate Launchpad is to unlock the world's clean tech potential to address climate change as a major issue. And it's made possible by bringing together various partners. So alongside Climate-KIC, we have TU Delft, the Technical University of Delft in the Netherlands, as our implementation partner. And we work together with Irish Aid and the Bank of America as funding partners. As anyone who's on the call now that's participating in Climate Launchpad this year will already know, we actually have a series of themes every year for the Climate Launchpad, and you can see those on screen now. But this year we have introduced a new theme, which is the blue economy, and I guess that's why everyone is here today. And the blue economy theme that we've just introduced is sponsored by Irish Aid. So Irish Aid is the international development arm of the Irish government, and they have a core focus of poverty reduction and creating a more sustainable world. Irish Aid has been working with Climate-KIC since 2019, supporting Climate Launchpad through Africa, but also in Vietnam and Colombia. And this year they have expanded their work with us to launch new programs around gender mainstreaming and also thematic work around topics such as adaptation and resilience, and of course, the blue economy. So without further ado, I would like to pass over to Maria, who will go in a bit more depth into the blue economy.
So thank you, David. And good morning or good afternoon or good evening to everyone in the group. So it's actually magnificent when we looked at the stats before to see that everybody were coming all from different locations around the globe. It's always very interesting and touching to have such audiences. So welcome on my side. I am Maria Loloni. I'm leading our systems innovation program in the maritime sector in Climate-KIC. And I'm going to take you through today on what is the blue economy, and looking at the trends for innovation there, and actually how can we innovate in a more holistic way. So first of all, let's start with a small question, actually, to get an idea of how well versed we are in the blue economy. So what is the first thing that you would say if you would be asked what is a blue economy? Yeah, anything goes. Yeah, don't be shy. Yeah, you can type in the Zoom chat, and we just I'll drive you through later. So there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever you know, it's good. I give us a couple of minutes to do that. Related to water. So we're getting some first ideas. So if it's related to the water ecosystem or the oceans, the blue economy is the potential to invest in the ocean, Kashaf says, yes. Water-related economies coming from quite a few participants, I see here. Maritime-based economy, Willie says, that's another aspect, also specific one, maritime-based economy activities that are impacting the ocean. Do you have any other ideas of what it could be even? Yeah, it doesn't matter if you don't know what it could be, the blue economy. Some colleagues already typed in with a question mark, if it's a water-related economy or not, it's a question. An economy based on the sea and oceans, Neo says. Yeah, so thank you very much, yeah. So I'll take you through now. So we'll go through this topic slowly. And thank you for the answers. Actually, everything is included. Everything that has been typed in the chat is included in the blue economy term. So let me go further here. So the blue economy has the word blue. So essentially the word blue relates to the seas and oceans, yeah? So here I have included a photo of the Earth that it's actually in the middle, it's looking at the ocean, yeah? And I was thinking when I saw first this photo years ago, I thought it's very, very interesting because normally when we see maps of the world or photos of the land in the center, any piece of land, yeah, any continent, but we don't really see such photos so much in the middle with the ocean there. But the ocean is actually it's covering 2/3 of the Earth's surface. It's the biggest element we have on our planet. And because I would say probably because we live on land, it's more interesting for us to look at the land, but the ocean is actually the biggest element on our planet. And it is holding 97% of Earth's water, so almost all of it. And the remaining 3% essentially, 2.5 is sitting on ice shelves and glaciers, and only 0.5% it's potable water found on seas, rivers, and on the rivers and lakes. Very interestingly, the ocean, of course, it's so vast and so deep, it sustains a lot of Earth's life forms, and we don't know everything about them yet. We're still researching there, quite some work to do. It produces also 50% of the oxygen we breathe. So being here today, actually, we own part of it to the oceans right now, to the ocean organisms that we are alive. And also the oceans are absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere, with a few consequences because of climate change and more carbon entering the atmosphere. We're going to look at that later, but it's very important that already this element, the water element, it's absorbing carbon. The oceans also provide food to humans and to many other species. They provide materials for us. They provide energy now, offshore energy, and recreation, very importantly. Almost half of the global population lives close to the sea. So 40% of people live in coastal areas, and 90% of trade is transported by sea. Also very important because whatever you see in your room right now, either the item itself or components of it has at some point gone through the sea to reach us. Blue economy. So what is it? The exact definition of blue economy now. So there's a few different definitions of what is a blue economy from different bodies. I put some here, there's many, many more. But what they have in common is essentially, first of all, the oceans. So the use of ocean resources and activities that are supporting economic growth. And sustainability is the second commonality. So how can we use ocean resources and do activities in the ocean in a way that will ensure sustainability and long-term prosperity? Conservation International, very nice addition here, adds that blue economy also includes economic benefits that are not marketed yet, maybe. For example, carbon storage or coastal protection. We're starting with some of these items now to look at them in economic terms. Cultural values related to the ocean, which are not necessarily a marketable item, if not connected, for example, to other activities like tourism and biodiversity. So very beautiful addition to the economic piece here. So I am moving on slowly. If the slides move on, just give me a second. Yes, perfect. Okay. So how big is the blue economy? So this is a graphic from back from 2015, which is prominently used, and it's very visual, so I selected it. But the data has changed a bit. So here what we see is that if the ocean economy, the blue economy, were a country, it would have been the 7th largest economy in the world. Right now, we're looking at an even bigger blue economy. So I think it is estimated currently at 3 trillion, and it's estimated it's going to grow in the next decade or two between up to 6 million. Show the figures, yeah. So quite big already and growing constantly. So the sectors now. when we're talking about the blue economy, what sectors are we talking about? So in this visual, you see sectors that are discussed within two groups. So we're talking about traditional sectors that have been there for a while, and emerging sectors, which are now coming up prominently. Traditional sectors are, for example, oil and gas extraction, it's shipping and maritime, shipbuilding, of course, the ports that are receiving the ships, it's fisheries, it's tourism. And as emerging sectors, we are looking at renewable energy production in the sea, we're looking at desalination, aquaculture, and I think now it starts to move. Yes, the slide, perfect. So seabed mining, seafloor mapping, blue bioeconomy, which is essentially production of materials coming from maritime organisms, and finance coming to support this all. Now, let's look at the trends in all these sectors. Again, it should be coming on your screen slowly. Yes. So trends. Let's start first with the traditional sectors. So marine non-living resources, which is essentially on the top left, it's oil and gas extraction in offshore environments. So here we see a trend for the future, which is knowledge transfer from the offshore oil and gas sector into the offshore renewable energy sector, which is emerging slowly in the past decade more and more. We're looking at the trend of reusing or repurposing the infrastructure that is already there, and we're looking at more and more exploration and characterization of the resources of oil and gas in the oceans, even though the most accessible ones are essentially already exploited. Here an example of an innovation, this from the Climate-KIC portfolio that is working in this domain. I have put here show systems, which is essentially a drone using hydrogen that it's inspecting remotely these offshore installations. Then if we look at the shipping sector, so shipping sector, we're looking at the trends of larger and larger ships. Green shipping, very important. It's coming as a trend very prominently. So we're looking at more efficient ships. We're looking at new propulsion systems, at new fuels, alternative fuels. And also smart ships. So digitalization, AI, different tools, and how can we use all this data available to make sense and to actually facilitate our interaction with the ship and with the ports. Here, some innovations that we have seen in Climate-KIC from our portfolio. It's the development of propulsion systems that are actually using wind energy. So it could be sails, or it could be look-alike for sails that are using wind to push the ships into the water. We are looking at innovations that are matchmaking ships with cargo owners, so that there's no empty space in the ship when it's traveling. There's innovation that it's looking at foldable containers to take up less space on the ship and afterwards. Innovations for alternative fuels. So MASH makes, they develop different types of fuels like hydrogen and biofuels from waste. Yeah, I would say Signol has developed an application which is supporting decision making for seafarers on how to reduce their fuel consumption while at sea. So then let's look at the ports now. So the ports that are receiving those ships. So we're looking again at the similar trends. So green and smart ships, green and smart ports here. Very similar considerations, how to reduce emissions, how to use digitalization to our own benefit and to increase speed and efficiency. Based on those, we'll look at new customer services developed upon those. And a big topic for ports is also climate change adaptation, because the rising sea levels of the oceans and the floods that are becoming more and more frequent, they pose a problem to these entities. Here we're looking at innovation very similar to before. So we're looking at innovation related also to cameras to cameras for monitoring containers, again, in the flow of containers automatically. We're looking at drones who can inspect the ships, who can also inspect the air and measure the pollution. And also innovations that are related again to the containers themselves, and pulling back, putting together modular structures for containers. Shipbuilding, same trend, so smart yards, but also shipbuilding is looking at new materials for ships, so more efficient materials, more stronger materials, lighter materials, and also circularity, very big consideration, how to maintain better maintenance of the ships and looking out through their whole lifespan, and also what do we do at the end of life when the ship has finished operations and needs to be dismantled. Tourism, there's trends of slow tourism. You see diverse activities in tourism like diving and with yachts, tourism with yachts, and integrated management of coastal areas. So how does tourism interact with the other sectors? Marine living resources, so fishing essentially. We're looking at innovation related to the use of byproducts. So what do we do with the byproducts coming from the fishing industry instead of throwing them away? Can we do something more with them? How to increase the safety of seafarers, and how to have fishing systems that are selective, so reducing the capture of species that we don't, that are unwanted. For example, sea turtles, or could be seals, could be different species that are unintentionally caught. And here you see this Analia Climate-KIC startup, the CEO of which he's now actually the UN ambassador for the Mediterranean. And what they are doing, they're educating fishermen how to fish more sustainably, and how they can actually also collect fishing gear that is left behind in the oceans, and create an additional income, sell it in a specific setting when they come on shore. So it's reused to make different materials out of it. So, and finishing with the innovations, we're looking at the emerging sectors. So the light blues you see on your screen are the emerging sectors, which are coming more prominently in the recent years. So first of all, desalination, very important. If we look at the data I mentioned before, so solar wind powered desalination innovations coming onto the market, innovative membranes for separating the salt from the water. And here we have also an innovation in our portfolio, desalinator, who is essentially a solar powered desalination plant. Aquaculture. So aquaculture starts moving more into the land now. So it can take place in the sea, but there's also installations on land who are cultivating different types of organisms. I have seen a lot for shrimps, for example, which is happening on land. We're looking at innovations with novel feed for this sector, so providing proteins to these marine organisms in novel ways. And multi-trophic, very interesting, so combining different sea organisms in a way that they complement each other. So the waste of one could be the food of another, and vice versa. Then renewable energy sources. So different types of renewable energy, offshore, wind, of course, solar, floating solar, we have ocean energy, we have wind energy. They're coming all more prominently. Improved reliability of this energy source is one of the innovation topics, and improved acceptability also. So different type of innovation here, collaboration between many different stakeholders and actors, so that it's a co-decision systems with society, or maybe sharing benefits in some cases could be here. Innovations we have seen in our portfolio, it's HelioRec, from whom we will hear a lot more about later. So this is floating solar panels. Then we have innovations related to stabilizing the energy load and software related to that, and also using ocean energy for electricity production and desalination at the same time. Seabed mining, this is quite a new area. So seabed exploration is also increasing. We're looking at robotics, we're looking at analysis of big data, and what essentially we can do with the seabed, and what type of minerals can it provide to humanity. Quite a controversial topic. So in the United Nations Conference on the Oceans last week, it was discussed that how do we regulate our activities related to this sector, because we need to be careful, and we don't know as much as we should have known to start with those probably. So seafloor mapping, also very related and similar. So we're looking here at data collection activities and starting to map the seafloor. This is more satellites. This is innovation related to underwater equipment and drones, and connected to satellites, and developing 3D maps of the seafloor. And the blue bioeconomy, it's looking at materials that are developed for marine and maritime organisms. So here the innovation trend is what is the potential of biodiversity, what can it essentially provide, and creating more and more high added value products. So moving in a customer into a segment that is higher added value produced from marine organisms. And finance, I have left out, which is essentially a bigger trend within finance, this type of green finance, as we call it. So here we're talking about blue finance, and we're looking at the issuance of blue bonds, which is quite a new instrument. We're looking at insurance, who is looking at how to ensure coastal areas and other assets that are going to be impacted by climate change. And we're looking at the trend, which is slowly becoming an obligation of ESG reporting for different companies, environmental, social, and governance considerations, which need to be taken into account from companies and other organizations. And attracting the higher the score, it gives a higher possibility for attracting finance. And I'm going to move on. So the challenges. So we heard a lot about the opportunities, but the ocean element is facing a lot of challenges. And you have probably seen many of those yourself live. You have experienced some of them. You have heard them in the news. So obviously plastic pollution, very, very big issue nowadays. You have heard, I guess, about the 5 plastic gyres in the world with all the plastic garbage, essentially. Ocean is warming gradually, and this in return starts acidifying the water and killing different organisms. The corals, as the first organisms, suffer. Chemicals coming from our agriculture are essentially causing algal blooms, so the growth of algae in coastal areas, that it's actually absorbing all the oxygen and killing marine organisms underneath. We have a collapse of fisheries. We have overfishing in the seas. There's a collapse of fisheries. And also local communities not included in decision-making and in innovation-making quite often. So that's another very big social issue. Biodiversity collapsing, that's also on land. So these are some of the problems, and there's many, many more the challenges that we need to solve as humanity and with our innovation. And then let's see how we innovate. Yes, so here, these are the Sustainable Development Goals. I guess you've all heard about them. So when we're talking about, so these are the goals essentially that we have set, the United Nations have set for ourselves for 2030. And there's specific targets related to this target here. We have this area of life below water, and how can we improve life below water? We can do it in many, many ways. You see here the targets, we just spoke about them. It's the challenges we discussed. And now our role as innovators. So our role would be to think at the same time, essentially, how can we innovate to improve life below water, solve humanity's problems and other species' problems, actually, not only ours. And at the same time, apart from innovating in this small segment under the life below water, let's say, target, how can we innovate in such a way that we can, at the same time, hit all the other targets? So that I leave you with that question. And some examples could be for using recyclable materials in your innovation. Could be the different women-men balance in the company. Could be how do I produce renewable energy while producing clean water, what I mentioned before. So just think about this while you're innovating and thinking throughout the course, and it's excellent when actually more than one of these targets can be solved at the same time because they reflect the challenges of the whole humanity. And I leave you here. I pass it back to Denise. Yes, thank you, Denise.
Great, thank you very much, Maria, for that. For that fascinating insights on blue economy. And of course, thank you very much, David, to the presentation beforehand about EIT Climate-KIC. And but now that we're done with the thank yous, I leave the floor open for any questions and answers. Well, questions from you, hopefully, and then answers from the speakers. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box. And I see Rahul has an idea to replace plastic by 60%, and can he pitch his idea? Well, I think maybe then perhaps if you have a question regarding your idea, maybe a specific question about how you can best innovate, then I'm sure we can, or perhaps where, and you can type that into the chat, and maybe we can see whether Maria or David can help out. So let us know if you have a specific question about your idea. And Angelica, let's see, how is the Climate Launchpad supporting the development of the blue economy agenda? And perhaps then I can open this up to a little bit more broad, is how is Climate Launchpad and Climate-KIC, EIT Climate-KIC in general, supporting the systemic transformation of the blue economy?
I can take that. Yeah, so the blue economy, so there's a lot of, in order to transition to a sustainable blue economy, we need to do many different types of activities. So in Climate-KIC, we call it systems innovation. So innovating on many different fronts, essentially, which means technology innovation is a very big part of the picture. But at the same time, we need to innovate on other fronts. For example, providing the new skills for this new economy, the more sustainable economy. And Climate-KIC does have programs for new skills. For example, we have the Pioneers program, which is exchange of professionals in the maritime sector as well. We have courses on systems thinking. We have courses on circularity and ports, for example, here in relation to the maritime sector. We have different types of courses, so related to education. At the same time, citizens and community need to be engaged. So Climate-KIC has a very large program of community engagement. It's called Climathon. It's like a big hackathon on the topic of reducing emissions and it happens, it takes place every year across the year, and it's at the global stage. So there's hundreds of cities participating there, pulling together challenges and discussing them and solving them with their citizens. We have our startup programs, of course, that we are here today. So from ideation and support through acceleration. And we have a larger program, it's called Deep Demonstration. So this larger program is bringing it all together. So we're working with certain cities, regions, and countries, not certain, everywhere. Right now it's certain, it's growing constantly. So we're working at many fronts to bring different stakeholders together to discuss, to agree, to look at the future together and work together to achieve the future they have set for themselves. And this is currently happening, for example, yes, I said from local levels up to country levels. We're working with Slovenia, we're working with Ireland. And in the port sector, I have worked before myself with different ports like Port of Valentia, Port of Piraeus in Cyprus with a maritime system there. Yeah, and there's many more, but it's too much. I think it's there are many more innovations at different fronts. So yeah, social innovation, I would call it, technological innovation, policy innovation, education, and finance we're working with.
think maybe just to add to that, Maria, is specifically related to entrepreneurship. Obviously, this year for the first time, we've made blue economy a key theme within the Climate Launchpad. So we're really encouraging innovations and business ideas from across the globe in this particular field. And we're also working on coming up later in the year a Pacific Islands focused accelerator, which is also blue economy themed. So yeah, we're seeing this come up more and more as a priority for Climate-KIC as an organization as well.
Thanks very much, both. And thank you very much for your question, Angelica. And nice to see you again, actually. So good to see you here. And so I'll move on to the next one. Jose wants to ask, are there any files or documents or resources that they can access to learn more about the startup ecosystem around the blue economy?
David, would you like to take that? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of resources available online. I know that we're planning, hopefully, if not for this year, for maybe next year, to start incorporating some blue economy content into the Climate Launchpad curriculum as well. So what I can say is watch this space on that one. Maria, I don't know if you have something else to add.
No, exactly that, actually, yes. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. And so we have a question about, let's see, can startups in India get required funding support from blue economy stakeholders? Or maybe to open up the question maybe a little bit broader is where can, where are the large stakeholders, for example, in the blue economy? And where should startups be looking?
So I'm not sure I have really understood the question, but if it's about the opportunities that are appearing globally, so I would say that there is all these emerging sectors and the traditional sectors too. There's a lot of innovation there, yes, very, very much actually. So if your idea is looking at the local level, it's a different set of stakeholders and a different market than when we go to the regional or the national or the transnational level. So depending, I would say, more on what type of idea you have or what type of sector you're looking at, it would be a different type of market. Yes, that would appear in front of you. What I have seen, like big markets, for example, that are from the emerging markets, the biggest segments that we have seen for innovation coming, it's blue biotech, it's aquaculture, and renewable energy for sure, globally.
Okay, and perhaps then linking to that is, Neo, the management of ocean resources. Is that a part of blue economy?
Yes, definitely. So there's a fisheries, first of all. So there's a very, very big debate about the collapsing fisheries and how are we going to tackle this issue, which has been there for decades, essentially. And right now it's becoming even more pressing. And at the UN Ocean Conference last week, there is an agreement between states. Okay, it's the initial stage, of course, but it was a very good signal to protect 30% of our oceans with marine protected areas. So essentially how to support this collapse in organisms and declining biodiversity to flourish again, yes.
Okay, thank you for that one, Maria. And okay, now here's the question from Rahul from the beginning about the plastic ideas is, should products be commercialized or for nonprofits?
I can maybe take this one. I think it depends on your organization, your business model, and I guess your own personal choice when it comes to this. Climate-KIC is really more focused on the impact of the innovations that take place, and not whether or not people choose to go for a non-profit or a for-profit business model. So we're definitely agnostic in that sense. So I think it's really something to look at your own business model and what works for you and creates the best impact.
Great, thanks, David. And of course, Climate Launchpad, then we are an ideation stage competition. So if you do have these ideas and you have applied to Climate Launchpad, then hopefully, eventually, if you make it through the bootcamp and the training, then those are the questions that we will try to help you with, is finding, where can you find your first customer, and what are your value propositions, and perhaps that will be able to help you further in answering those big questions, which are so business specific. This is lovely. We've got so many questions here. And let's see, we've got some questions about carbon trading regulation. Is that...
What is the question?
So there's a question about, are there any organizations introduced or institutions where we can just Willie can discuss carbon trading with the local government?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure actually how it takes place in the different locations. So the carbon trading, so the emission traded system, I can speak for Europe right now, that they are trying to include shipping into the emissions trading system of the European Union. It's an idea that it's being discussed at the moment. There's no final decision yet on the what and the how. But yes, it's an idea. It's just because for the maritime sector especially, but it's because all these value chains and the maritime sector, actually the ship crosses different nations and then enters the European Union. There's a lot of debate on exactly how would this work. But it is ongoing, and it's expected to do. We're expecting to have a decision in the next few years. Yeah.
Great. Thanks very much. And then I think one last question pertaining to this section, and then we can move on, perhaps do a little break, and the startups, and the rest of the questions we can hold for the second half of the Q&A. So then for this specific one, was about, I think your presentation, Maria, is aquaculture done on land or in sea?
So aquaculture is done both on land and sea. So it is done at sea for sure. And right now we're observing a trend that it starts moving on land. For example, this morning already I was reading about a startup which is producing shrimps on land in Germany. So there's quite a few of those examples. I think they have seen it in France as well. So it's starting to move on land with salt water quite a few times, and also using solar, using different, and also this multiculture, so combining one species with another at the same time also. Yeah.
Great. Then I think that answers the question. I think that's very clear. Thanks very much. And then for the other questions, yes, I see you, Swati. Then we will get back to you after the second half of the webinar. So don't worry, we're still going to get there. So I think this takes us to the end of the first section of the Q&A. Fantastic. Thanks for all of your questions, all of your contributions. We're going to have a short break for about 5 minutes, and I'll see you back here where we're going to talk to our next startup. So the time is now 4:53. I'll see you around 4:58, so give or take, let's say 60 seconds. See you soon. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I hope everyone has managed to get a little break, a glass of water, and had a good chance to let everything that we've just heard sink in. And after everything has sinked in, if you do think, oh, I'm wondering about what Maria said there or what David said previously about EIT Climate-KIC in general, then please type them in the chat as we speak, as we talk, and we'll try to get to as many as your questions as we can today, because I mean, we were just saying in the background that that's Maria, David, and I, we are loving all of this interaction and all of this activity on the chat. And that, you know, this is exactly why we're here and what we're doing it for. So thanks very much to everybody. So now welcome back. And so we've got a big treat for you, because now you've heard from us, and the next person we have here with us is you're going to get the fantastic startup perspective on opportunities and, you know, how they've made their business within the field of blue economy. So I have the pleasure of introducing you to Polina Vasilenko. She's the founder and CEO of HelioRec. Polina is a passionate environmental entrepreneur with 2 master's degrees in chemistry and renewable energy, particularly relating to ocean. And as well, she's a mentor in women in tech. And here she is, and she is the founder and CEO at HelioRec with 20 years of experience in the energy sector. So I'm really excited to hear from you, Polina, about your business, your startup. And if you're happy to, then I will give the reins over to you. So just feel free to click through the presentation.
Yes, so I could unmute myself. All right. Can you give me ability to share my slides? Okay. So you're going to share it?
Yes, your slides are with me. So I'll bring you back to.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak today. I am Polina, founder and CEO at HelioRec. We are building floating solar power plants. Next slide. So with our solution, we want to solve 3 problems. First, EU needs to cut greenhouse gas emissions in only 7 years by 55%. Cost of electricity is very expensive in many locations. This is a use case from Cyprus. And also many countries don't have available land space to install solar panels on the land. Next. With HelioRec solution, we are tackling all these problems. Can you please move to another slide? So we generate a clean energy from solar panels with high efficiency due to cooling effect from water. Cost of our electricity twice less than electricity from the grid. And we don't occupy any land space, installation on unused water space. As you see, we built the project in Belgium in our standard port on the picture here. So basically what we do, we manufacture a floating system by ourselves in Europe, so it's blue part. We purchase photovoltaic equipment on the market, assemble all parts together and install it on the water. Next slide. Floating solar market is a fast-growing industry nowadays with annual growth more than 33%. Total addressable market in Europe only, it's more than 12 billion euro. On the picture, you can see our use case for Valencia port. This green part, it's imaginary installed the power plant, and it doesn't disturb any maritime activities. So we always can find locations where we will not interact with activities. Next slide, please. So our typical customers are ports, utility companies, municipalities on coastal areas. Next, please. We are operating in harsh conditions at low cost, and how we are doing it. So we invented and patented HelioRec feature. It helps to keep system stable and robust. As well, we use recycled plastic for manufacturing of floating system. It helps to reduce system cost and carbon footprint. That's why we are 3 times cheaper than our competitors who is also operating in offshore environment. Next, please. So we are a team of 3 people and 2 advisors. About myself, as was mentioned, I am working in energy sector more than 20 years. I'm winner of Women in Green Tech Award. Alexander is our manufacturing manager, Dmitry is sales person, and 2 advisors are helping us with technology development and business development. So currently we are also hiring. If someone interested to join our startup, please check our website on jobs. Next, please. So we started this journey in 2019, our headquarters in Nantes, in France. Since this time, we installed 2 projects. You remember in the beginning, I showed the picture of our installation in Belgium. The system already could survive wind speed more than 100 km an hour. So we made a patent, we made the trademark, we raised some money from investors, different awards, grants. Now we are opening the seed round. So we want to prove our technology at bigger scale. So as I mentioned, we do manufacturing ourselves in Europe. So also need to scale this manufacturing line. So our current the pipeline more than 5 million, and now we are signing the contract with a big utility company in Europe. Next, please. So by 2026, our impact will be we will save more than 40,000 tons CO2, 8 million euro for our customers a year, and of course land space. This is me doing operation and maintenance of our installation in Belgium. Next, please. Thank you very much for listening to me. So if you have questions, you can ask in the chat or after on Q&A sessions. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Polina. And that's absolutely right, because this brings us to the Q&A. And I'm already seeing messages and questions. So that's fantastic. Thanks very much for your presentation about your startup and your business. And I think I can kick us off and ask, so Polina, so it's really interesting and fantastic that you're using recycled materials for your innovation. What factors, directed you towards making that choice?
Because my main goal is to reduce CO2 emissions as much as possible. So in the past, I worked in oil and gas for many years, and I decided to change my career path from fossil fuel to renewables. So my internal driver is to reduce CO2 emissions, and one of the ways, obviously, generate clean energy. Second one is to use smartly other materials which also help to reduce emissions. So that's why we identified some materials which we can use for floating system. So and it helps to reduce carbon footprint and the cost. So this is good for environment and for business.
That's great. Thanks very much. And I think this is probably exactly, combining that that what Maria was mentioning in the presentation before, that you can address more than one issue with your innovation startup. So I think that's fantastic that you're doing that. David asks, so Polina, what is the main advantage of floating solar versus solar panels on land?
Yes, so first one, we don't occupy land space. So installation on unused water space, because nowadays more and more people on the planet and urbanization. So, and it's good to have generated energy in the same place where people consume it. So, and historically, people live near the coastal line. So more than 50% of global population live near the sea. So that's why we choose this opportunity to generate clean energy and deliver it to people nearby. So first, it's saving land space for other needs. And second one, efficiency of solar panels deployed on the water is high, approximately on 15% due to cooling effect from water. So these are two main benefits of this type of systems.
Thanks. And so Swati, this is a question from previously. So Swati asks, what stage of product or project development should we be at? Then I think this perhaps is a question about somebody who's maybe just starting their idea and startup. So in terms of the IT community or ClimateLaunchpad, we are ideation stage, but there are other programs within the EIT Climate-KIC organization where you can join at various stages, for example, Climate accelerators. And that leads me, inspires me to ask you then, Polina, how did you start HelioRec? What happened to get you where you are today?
So I came to France, so I don't speak French, and I just came because, so I like France. I came, I didn't understand anything about the business because before I worked in a big corporate, Schlumberger, so not understanding about the business at all. I was accepted in Accelerator Entrepreneur First. It's quite a famous UK-based accelerator. So I got first knowledge about how to do business, and little by little started my idea. So I had this idea how to place the solar panels on the water, or how to design the floating system with this HydroLock innovative feature. So I made a patent. We started manufacturing, like a lot of pain with this because hardware is always hard. And on the way I was in different accelerators. Last one, for example, I was on Techstars Paris accelerator. It's a global 3 top accelerator. So it was good. So like little by little, just drill around where you can see opportunity, apply as much as you can. And anyway, you will find the right people on the path, and just do what you love to do. I hope, I mean, I have like a long life story explanation of everything, but I guess it's we can have another talk about this.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely book a webinar because I'm very curious. I think every startup has their own unique story. Every founder has their own unique story, and we can learn so much from the steps that others and absolutely Climate-KIC alumni, Accelerator alumni have taken in order to get to business success. And leading to that, then do you have any tips for other blue economy startups seeking investment?
The main tip for every startup, start to look for the customers as early as you can, because you think that your idea is great and everyone will buy it, but in reality it's not. So you need to struggle to find the customers, and as faster to do this, as more chance you will succeed and actually someone will buy your solution. So this is the main tip. Also from my experience, I am solar founder, so it's so difficult to run the company alone. So if you have reliable co-founder, do it together. So yeah, these 2 tips, I guess.
And Angelica asks, congratulations for the innovation in renewable energy. So firstly, congratulations. How does it work with permissions in installing floating systems on the shores? And how do you connect to the local energy grid? Or how do you connect the generated energy to the local grid?
Yeah, so it depends on from country to country. For example, now we are obtaining the permits for Cyprus installation, and it will take like 1 year to get the permits from Maritime Ministry and Energy Ministry of Energy. So this is like very pain. In some locations, like in Belgium, we did port on sea space, so we don't need to obtain any certificates for this. We just occupy unused water space, and that's it. So it's really depends from country to country. Difficult to say. For connection to the grid, also from time, different regulations in Belgium, for example, to supply energy to the grid, it will take half a year to obtain the permits for this. In Belgium, we did off-grid system, so we did not connect system to the grid. So we have battery, and we charge battery. We use it in the facility. So daytime it's panels. At the same time, we charge battery, and it can be used in the nighttime. So we need to see from one case to another case. Also, if you deploy as a pilot project or like innovation project, it's usually easy to get the permits. So it will take like half a year instead of 1 year, for example. But in terms of cables, it's DC cable goes to inverter, go to transformation, and go to the grid. So we have, in our case, we place cable like on the small bridge, and it goes to the shore line. It can be done on the bottom, on the sea bottom, but it will be very expensive option. So we try to place as close as possible to the shoreline. It's easy for operation maintenance, and it's easy to transport the electricity from power plant to the grid or to battery.
Great, thanks very much. I hope that answers the question, Angelica. And we have a question from Oscar. And so Oscar, he's a startup that currently adds value to seaweed and soon to facilitate communities consulting seaweed. And so he's really excited that there are fellow startups in this field, for the blue economy field. He wants to know if there are networks or platforms that brings everybody together, because he'd love to join one. So Polina and perhaps the rest of you, David, Maria, what are the organizations or networking platforms that startups in the blue economy should be looking at to join or to follow, for example?
I think it's quite many alliances, like Sustainable Ocean Alliance, for example, or I was in a Maritime Climate Accelerator. So there's still some people, like for example in Cyprus, a guy from this accelerator helped me to find the local companies. So this type of accelerator can help. Also, I was in DigiCirc accelerator. It was dedicated to blue economy. So still like some network of companies there. Yeah, I can think about it and give some links on different platforms. In my case, as I was in quite many accelerators, we still like Slack group or WhatsApp group, people can exchange ideas. So I can give some links later on.
And just to oh, sorry, Maria.
No, it's actually, I was going to pass it to you, David, because I was thinking on the European stage. So for example, it's exactly what Polina mentioned. So different accelerators and different local institutes that are connecting maybe could be a good option. And also what I have seen in Europe, but I guess it's very, very similar to the other parts of the world. There's programs like Blue Invest we have here, or the Enterprise Europe Network. So these are organizations or programs that their mandate is to connect different entities at the startup or at the, to connect and support actually at startup or a small medium enterprise stage. And Climate-KIC has a role of connecting different people and startups, which David will just drive us through now. But there's many options to follow out there. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I was just going to add one tip. So a lot of people that have been through our programs are active members of LinkedIn groups that are often grouped by professional interest, or there are quite a lot of green entrepreneurship groups that are quite active on LinkedIn. So I'd recommend checking there. And also Climate-KIC is now in the process of setting up our own community platform called Climate Hive. It's not ready yet, but we're about to begin the beta testing. So I would also say watch this space, because I can't wait to invite everyone on board to our community at the Climate Hive.
Wow, thank you all three of you for all of your suggestions. I really feel like we're getting really the inside scoop on where we need to be, and and where the right networks are if we're in the blue economy field. So thanks very much. And yeah, if you do have the links, then we'll make sure to pass it on to everybody who's in the webinar today. And so another question for you, Polina, is how are the ports receiving the HelioRec innovation? What was their first reaction? And then maybe moving on, is their current reaction the same or different?
So the first reaction was good, because of course if they don't like it, they don't let to build anything. So reaction was good, and a system behaves well, so it doesn't disturb any ship road, so everything is fine. Of course there are some more traditional ports, so they don't want to innovate, they want to do business as usual. So no any type of innovation you can do this. It just in Europe it's around 3,000 ports, so I'm sure it will be possible to find more like-minded ports, like what I mentioned. Valencia port, their target is to reduce CO2 like completely by 2030. So they're really looking for different type of innovation, and like floating solar in one of the option, because you put on the roof panels, but still you want to generate more clean energy. So why don't use it their sea space? So if they have like really target on like really do something, they will like this any type of innovation. So also from port to port, you see it's live.
And was this was your initial business idea when you started? Did it look anything like what you're doing now? And reports perhaps your chosen beachhead market at the very beginning?
Actually, it was kind of the same. So I had this idea. I was struggling to find the first market. So I thought, okay, like I started to speak with utility companies in the beginning, but it did not work fast. But I found the opportunity to build something in the port, and I realized that this type of customers can be good for the beginning. So but idea of placing solar panels on water with this design what we're having now, it was some improvement in terms of hardware. But so for 3 years it's kind of the same, but now we're having idea to add software component. So we're building dashboard where customer can analyze the data from power plant, data from environment like wind, wave, solar, blah, 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 all together, build a platform with machine learning, and customer can understand what is going on with the power plant in 5 years, for example. So we now like just with the hardware part, we're adding software part, and it will give us more opportunities to sell our solution. But we still stick on the same idea of floating solar.
That's great. Yeah, thank you very much. So I really appreciate the experience that you shared of, in the beginning where you started, who you started talking to, and then which was utilities, and then you went to port. So, and what sort of advice then would you give to startups? And maybe this is a good one actually to finish the webinar if we don't receive any more questions in the chat. So please, if you want us to keep going, get typing. And but back to Polina, what advice would you give to startups who are just getting started?
It's always, I guess, good to be around like-minded people who supporting you, because building startup it's like 10 times more difficult than work in the company. And if around you some people who telling you, oh no, you will not succeed, blah blah blah, it's difficult, so you will never build. So be in the community which of people who support you, who can give you advice, not just giving advice, but share experience and everything, who can guide you from the beginning. This is the most valuable thing what you can get from this, like be with the right people around. Because for example, in my case, my family from like oil and gas industry, and like my father is still telling me, oh, why are you doing this bullshit? Go to work in Schlumberger again. Like I don't like to work in oil and gas. I want to do my stuff. And this is like sometimes frustrating. So, but in the community of right people, you will overcome this emotional difficulties, and also you will have more power to build things because you will believe in yourself more. So.
That's such good advice, and I absolutely agree. It is so important to find like-minded people, and hopefully we found them here in this webinar. I mean, you're all here for the reason and this reason, so it's so nice to see so many people here today. And thank you so much for for telling us about your startup, your experiences, and your tips to everybody here. And I'm already seeing people in the chat trying to start a community here with group portals and sharing emails or telegrams, Discord channels. And of course, David, hopefully he will share the Hive. So we will absolutely be able to support each other going forward in whatever innovation journey that we have. So thanks very much. And so Rahul, when can we pitch an idea? That's a good question. So in this webinar, then we're just finishing up, so we won't have any pitches. But if you are joining ClimateLaunchpad and you get accepted to the program, then there will be plenty of idea to pitch your startup idea. So you can check out our website and see whether or not the applications are still open for your country. And to be honest, whether or not there is a pitch competition, I think, and maybe Polina, you'll agree with me, if you have a business idea, you should be always practicing your pitch. So maybe when is actually anytime. And yes, and we do have a social presence. And thank you very much, David, for putting that in the chat. And so welcome back to the program. I hope you've all managed to have a stand up and a little breather, because we've got super exciting second half of the webinar ahead of you. And as you can see already on my screen, I'd love to introduce two special guests. These are, as I mentioned before, startup special guests. And the first one here in front of me is Marta. She is an industrial designer passionate about the sea and alternative production systems, and she truly believes in the ability of Gen Z to make the world blue. And so a huge welcome to BioMec, and welcome to the Blue Economy webinar, and I'd love to see what you have to say to us today.
Oh, thank you, Denise. I was able to unmute. Hello, guys. Kind of like Denise did all the job, but I'm really happy to be here today and kind of like reconnect. I kind of like participate in the ClimateLaunchpad 2020, and I'm really glad to be able to chat with you guys. So basically, I'm an industrial designer, and I'm work for BioMec. 3 years ago, while I was in school, I kind of like a really good friend of mine kind of like had an accident, lost part of his leg, and had a really hard time to have access to like prosthesis. And at the same time, we would like collect in the Mozambican coast in over like 3 months, over 7 tons of plastic residuals. And with my colleagues, we kind of have like our HelioRec moment to basically transform this plastic residuals collected from the sea, like PET bottles and ghost fish nets, into high performance prosthesis. So it was like a kind of like 2 years journey. And 6 months ago, we started to like kind of like conduct other research to kind of make wheelchairs, basically using the same material and the same process. So we came up with this kind of like a system to basically transform this all these ghost fish nets in 24 hours based on the technology that we use, like a 3D printer and 3D scanner, and that allowed us to kind of like build a prosthesis or a wheelchair in 24 hours compared to the 2 or 3 weeks of logistic and all the operations that they use in the standard procedure to kind of like build this material. And we have like kind of like the green or the blue part of it that since we don't kind of like use this standard procedures that has like a lot of damage to the environment, we are able to reduce by building 10,000 wheelchairs, kind of like deal better with the tons of emissions that we create. And of course, get people a better access to this product, give them possibilities, productivity, and self-esteem, because basically we are taking all this material from the sea to the streets. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Now, I think thank you very much for Marta and telling us about BioMec. And I know you probably have some questions for Marta, so let's type them in the chat, and then we will answer them after the second presentation, because I'm very excited to introduce the next presenter, next startup, which is who's Cristina from Bound for Blue. And I may have given you already a sneak peek of the presentation, so hopefully you'll get excited about that. So Cristina is the COO and co-founder of Bound for Blue, and holds a BSc and MSc in aeronautical engineering and an executive MBA from IESE Business School. She also attended several programs at the University of Cambridge, ESAD Business School, and Singularity University. She's participated in more than 10 national and European projects and being the inventor of more than 5 patents in the field of wind-assisted propulsion systems and in its various applications. So Cristina, welcome to the webinar, and let me give you control over the screen. So, and let me give you, more importantly, the microphone. So bear with me 1 minute.
Okay, I think I'm ready. I'm not sure how can I move the screen, but
Exactly.
okay, perfect. So thank you very much for inviting me today. I'm really happy to be here with you. They asked me to share a little bit about Bound for Blue, and I'll do it very quickly so you can know what I'm doing. But I would like to really dedicate this time to share with you what I would have told myself when I started, like key things to do when launching a company. So as you can see here, what we are doing is bringing sales back to shipping. But we are doing it with modern technology. So these systems are more similar to airplane wings than to conventional soft sails. So they're able to generate more than 6 times more power, propelling force than the sails that were used centuries ago. And we're doing this to reduce the fuel consumption and the pollutant emissions of ships, which is enormous. So if you have you want more information about the project, I'm happy to share. But I really want to dedicate this time to really share like my key learnings throughout the way. I had to be concise, so I chose just 6, but I think I could be speaking for hours. The first one would be like choose the right people to get on board, and we could never say it better in my case. Like so the thing is, what lacks at the beginning is financing. And sometimes the hardest part is not about building the technology, but to get the right people. So when you don't have funding, sometimes you get more junior positions, and that really does not foster the quick innovation that is required. And sometimes like you must dedicate this time also to learn, so you go a little bit slowly. So in case you receive funding, the right thing to do is not invest it into products sometimes, but invest it into good talent. So that was my first like learning, not get junior positions, but maybe more senior at the beginning. That is okay, that's better. Then the other one would be always open for more options when fundraising. I was thinking about fundraising, and I remember one of my times when I was preparing this presentation, we were closing a funding round, and we were speaking with a VC. So they tend to talk with you and ask, so how much money you have in the bank account, and then what is your burn rate. So they're able to know at what time you're going to really don't have money in the bank. And then what they did to us was lower the valuation, lower even farther than what was the past post-money valuation. So that was very hard for us. So we didn't have really much more options opened, and in just 1 month we had to close this financing throughout the private investors. But I think we were lucky. Of course, the job that we did was very good, but I mean, closing what we needed from a VC, but instead from them, from a private investor, was very hard. And I think there was a little bit of luck on our side that day. Then, obviously, the third one would be understand the customer needs. So if you're launching your company, really be very close to your customer, because sometimes, at least myself, I'm an engineer, like Denise mentioned. So we tend to really look for the best solution, but sometimes the customer is not willing to pay for it. So if the first part is like be very close to them all the time, really understanding their needs. And sometimes going a little bit farther, because sometimes they believe they have a need, but then they are really not willing to pay, or really it's not that important, and it's really bringing you a little bit of noise in the development. So really be able to depict a little bit what is important from what is complementary. That is something also key to go a little bit faster into the innovation phase. then perfection is the enemy of good. I'm a very perfectionist person. And sometimes it's not about launching the perfect solution for the perfect customer, but rather having a minimal viable product, launching it, learning, applying it, and really going through this iterative process together with the customer. It's better to get a minimum viable product and really start testing with the customer and then go forward. Then like my fifth learning would be like, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And I say this because at least throughout my journey as an entrepreneur, I felt sometimes that I failed. I chose several things in the past, then I saw that that was not a good decision. At the time it was, I had that info and a certain information. I made a decision, but then laterwards it was not the best one. And the company lost money by doing so. So I treated that as a failure, and it's not a failure. So every time we failed, if you want to see this way, we didn't win, we were learning throughout the way. So we were learning what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So I think it's even much more a failure if you don't believe you're failing in that sense, because you're not learning. You're in fact not realizing that something is going wrong. Sometimes it's very strange that everything goes so smoothly. So really be aware of that. And the last one, and because I'm talking about failures, there was a time that I really thought, okay, this is going nowhere. It's very hard to find financing, very hard to build a team, very hard to really convince customers. It's like very hard everything. So it's find your why. So why are you starting the company? Or in my case, I asked myself, why did you start this? In my case, it was because I wanted to create impact in the world by reducing the pollutant emissions of ships, which are involved in transporting 90% of what you use and consume in your everyday life. So that is my why, reducing the impact of ships. And even externally, it might be happening whatever, there might be fire around you, but if you really have this why clear and a little bit more transcendental than money, like I want to build a very good business, that's okay. But you can do that with whatever type of business. Try to be concrete in your like purpose of why you're building what you're doing. And that I think has been my motivation throughout the way. It's hard. Obviously having a team beside, like co-founders to like really helping you throughout the way. But of course, finding this why is very important. So that is like my 6 key learnings. I could be speaking like a lot of each of them and much more. So if you want to talk with me, you're depending on what stage, if you want to share problems, maybe we're really on the same problem, like facing the same problem, I'm happy to connect with you. So I'm leaving you my contact details, like in the next slide, if I can show it, but I'm not. So I'm leaving you the contact details. If you can help me, like Denise. Okay, there you go. So if you want to contact me, I'm really open to help you if I can. And thank you very much. And I'm happy to solve your questions.
Thank you so much, Cristina, for telling us about Bound for Blue, what you do, and as well for sharing these really valuable learnings that you've had on your business journey. So I think I think those are so useful for, I think, all of us, whether we are starting a business, starting the innovation, or even in the middle, because we can always, as you say, learn. And so I think I'd have to say that was my favorite one, that you're not failing, you're learning. So here we are, we're at the Q&A section. We've got plenty of time for your questions and plenty of time for our speakers today to answer them. So please post them in the chat box. I see already quite a few. And now we've got quite a few people wondering, and this is for you, Marta. Tell us what kind of 3D printer are you using? And giving you the microphone here.
Great, very technical question. So basically we are using the Fractals 3D printer. They are basically industrial 3D printers. They can like do a heavy job compared to the ones that we have at our houses, do-it-yourself studios.
And did you convert waste plastic to filament? That's what Kisha would like to know.
Oh, great. Another very good and technical question. Yes, the procedure with like PET, for example, we kind of like take PET and transforms into little pieces and then add the glycol that basically it's a negative and give another good properties. And basically you turn that into filament and then you put in your 3D printer.
Okay, and it all sounds very easy. Was it always that easy with the with creating your product and working with the printer, or did you have to prototype a few times?
Oh, sure. We had to do it, and we kind of like developed the product in 3 months, and we kind of like took the 2 other years to have like the medical certification, because it's a medical product and you have like to conduct a bunch of tests to actually kind of prove that it's not gonna harm anybody and all this kind of like technical stuff.
And Cristina, how long did it take for you to develop your product?
Wow, much more. So just think about the first system that we installed was 12 meters high. So we started making small prototypes much smaller than my height. And then we started iterating, and until we decided to scale up, it took quite a while. And in terms of financing it, I mean, it's hard work, but very big hard work. So the problem is finding this finance too, which was something that really made the process much longer than if we had that money before, like starting. We started in 2015, and last year, by summer last year, 2021, we installed the first real scale unit. And also in 2021, by December, we installed the second system, which was 17 meters high, and it's the largest suction sail ever built and installed in the world. But it's very big, it's like a building, you know, so it takes much more time. We didn't have the regulation part because it's not like class by class societies, it's not a class element. So we could skip that part, but not the prototyping phase, which took quite more.
And how is the shipping industry receiving your innovation?
So at the beginning, it was like more skeptic, because the shipping industry, like ship owners, have been very conservative, and we have to think about security. They're thinking about security all the time. So for them, it's not about the risk itself of the system, of an innovative system, but the perceived risk that it can have, which can be very different from what the real risk is. So the first time it was more convincing on that did not bring any like structural issue and operational issue, of course. Neither problems of stability, visibility. There were like a lot of checks to be done for them. But then afterwards, when regulations kept going and became much more stricter, then their perceived risk really went down. And that was because waiting for really having the technology which had or offered no risk, because it was fully deployed on the rest of the fleet before they were installing it on their own fleet, really was going to take quite a while. And regulations were just a step forward. Like next year we have another regulations, and around 30,000 vessels of 90,000 that are navigating around the world will have to really reduce their speed because they're not complying with energy efficiency indexes. So for them, the high risk right now is not about the system itself, but rather about not being able to operate their fleet, and that's what it's having the revenue. So the thing is that we were able to really show that the technology did not offer any risk. We've proven it in two systems, and now regulations, it's really speeding the adoption and the inquiries we get all of the days with respect to ship owners really asking for quotations for the installation of sails because they're having problems to comply with regulations. So there's been a change in the mindset throughout the way.
Yeah, I think that's great that then it's bringing more attention to you and Bound for Blue, and of course, and we need that really to speed up the energy transition. So that's good. And what are do you have tips for startups seeking investment? I'll start with you, Cristina, and then I'll ask Marta the same thing.
So for me, I think it's key preparing first. So you have like some sort of preparation, but sometimes depending on like something that has helped us a lot throughout the way is like working together with people which are very like related to financing and investment. So signing mandates with people that bring these investors is really useful because it really speeds up the process too. And I would say that's my process, like be prepared, be with all like Q&A, everything. So then the process is much faster, and really lawyers are key throughout the way too. So at the beginning, you don't have financing, and sometimes you don't value like the work of lawyers and say, okay, I'll do it. And yeah, you do it the first times, but then laterwards, I think like also think about having lawyers if you're thinking about going to raise funds, which are much bigger. We're talking about millions right now. So be well prepared also, because they will also be well prepared too. So you have to really be the warrior of the interest of your own investors also, and the team and what you're trying to build. So yeah, and sometimes it's also okay to say no to some investors. There's nothing worse than having a bad investor on your shareholder and have also a good shareholder agreement too. Like, so you're able to really laterwards take decisions sometimes yourself as a team, and some investors are so. So you will get diluted by the way, but sometimes dilution doesn't mean you cannot take decisions in the company. And then laterwards, investors and VCs will also ask that the founding team has these rights on, and then laterwards it's much difficult to change. So be well prepared since the beginning.
Oh, good. So thanks very much. And I hope everybody is taking notes to be prepared. And Marta, do you have a similar experience with that?
Yeah, sure. I guess because we are in the same field and we kind of like have the same like challenge. Adding to what Cristina said, I would say like know your numbers. I know and try kind of like made the shift from the idea to something. I mean, like the prototype, a functional prototype. I know with like very technical projects, it might be a challenge depending on what you are doing or investing in. But kind of like try to have like something to add to the idea, like kind of like the concept, like something like physical to show basically, and be well prepared and know your numbers. No one better than you can like share that. So share with patience.
I'd like to add, Denise, because when I was hearing Marta, be accountable. Sometimes it's very useful. The first funding round, it's very difficult to close because you have to convince that the team is very good, because sometimes you don't have product even to show. Like you have an idea, you have like some numbers, but then be accountable. Laterwards, when you're raising like the second funding round, if you have complied everything that you said that you were going to comply, then really private investors that you had on board since the beginning, they will still join you in this second round, maybe a little bit less, with less money than at the beginning, but that they will go. And that will show also the rest of the investors joining this funding round that the company is worth it and they are complying everything which they were told at the beginning for the other investors. So be accountable also. It's not just about raising money, it doesn't end there. That is just the beginning. So you have to really comply with what you tell investors.
Absolutely. I completely agree. So be accountable. And now you mentioned beginning, and I'm curious now because Marta, we were there. I hope ClimateLaunchpad was there for your beginning. You're a CLP alumni. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in ClimateLaunchpad?
Yeah, sure. It was like very nice. I had the opportunity to kind of like connect with another green and blue entrepreneurs all over the world and have like access to like great mentors that I got the opportunity to kind of like work with them like right now. And at the projects. And just like to give like a little reminder, I was a student when we first started, and it was like everything was new to me, and I'm glad that I have like this opportunity to kind of like connect all the crazy ideas that we had in university and be able to apply that.
Nice. And so you were a student when you started BioMec, and how is it going now? Is this your full-time work now, Marta?
Yes, fun story. It is, because like I graduated and we basically just launched another product, and I was like in this like position. Should I like do the normal path and like after the university get a job and etc. But I realized that that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm full-time on it.
And you're full-time, and what do you have planned for the future?
Oh, basically something huge that goes like beyond BioMec, that it's kind of like give attention to the fact that the medical industry can be more green or blue, can like kind of be part of the cycle to make everything good again.
Yeah, I think that sounds absolutely very aspirational. Yeah, please do keep us in the loop about that next step. We'd love to hear about it when it happens. And Cristina, what's next for Bound for Blue?
So we are right now with two installations, traditional installations. And for us, what we want to do in the shipping industry is make these wind-assisted propulsion technologies become a standard. So it's impossible to really think about, they're thinking about burning fuels, alternative fuels, which today 14% of those fuels are coming from really renewable fuels, renewable sources like wind or solar. And for us, it's like unimaginable not to use resources that are available at point of use, like wind throughout the sail. And that's our main purpose in the company, like sail after sail, installation after installation, making this technology a standard in shipping.
I hope that it does become the standard in shipping, and that Bound for Blue will be at the forefront, or is perhaps already at the forefront of this. And so it's now I'm mindful of the time. And we are reaching the end of our time here together. Thank you so much for all of your conversation. I'll give the audience one last minute to type in any questions that they may have while you've got our startups or our experts here in front of us. And I would say that while we give them a minute to do that, then I would then ask one last question to both of you is, what is your biggest learning from your whole business journey? And I'll start with Cristina.
Wow, just one?
Yeah.
I think that the best learning I would take is that to really choose wisely the colleagues, the shipmates that you will have. In my case, I chose the best ones, Jose Miguel and David, to launch the company, but I've seen like other entrepreneurs with whom we are very friends, very close friends, that they didn't have the same luck. So I think that the best part here is like having those partners throughout the way. So choose wisely for who you're starting with the venture.
Wise words. Thank you. And Marta.
Well, basically based on the age, I would say like be radical, but I mean everything that is happening, basically in everything, I've been like kind of like radical, and sometimes you kind of like try to create like normal ways to do it and etc. I would say like be radical, be out of the box, and try to test and analyze and be fast to do it. I mean, sometimes we stand on the in the door trying to decide for a little longer. So I would say like take shots, and it's always like a learning never a failure. So I would say like just try that radical in your solutions and the way you approach things.
Thanks. I love both of those answers. So be radical and be mindful, and with who you have around you and your connections, and hopefully that, and I'm speaking to the crowd here, is that we're all here for the Blue Economy webinar, so we're all in, we all have the same mindset, and we all quite feel the same way about where we should go in terms of how we can make steps towards fixing climate change. And it is so important to form communities and to find networks that of like-minded people. Then perhaps a question then for David to wrap up is, what kind of networks do you see that people can join within our community?
Yeah, we also had this question yesterday. So yeah, I know there are a lot of really great groups out there. There are a lot of very active LinkedIn groups with our alumni community. Just want to flag that Climate-KIC is working on its own community platform called Climate-Hive, which is now going into beta testing. So hopefully we'll be able to invite much bigger groups of people to collaborate on that platform a little bit later this year. So definitely watch this space for that.
Great, thanks, David. So there you go, everybody. You're the first to hear it. Keep your eyes and ears out really for the next developments here within Climate-KIC and ClimateLaunchpad. Sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already. Follow us on social media. Thank you, David. And that's where you'll be able to get the latest. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we go, I would like to ask you to tell us what you think. So I'm going to put up the final poll for you. And it's an easy one. How would you rate today's webinar? 1 for poor, 3 for average, and 5 for excellent. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it, but hopefully it's an easy answer. Don't be shy. Okay. I'll finish it off there. So we've had quite positive responses from all of you. So thank you very much. I'd like to say that I've really enjoyed our time together, and I'm rating all of you positively. So excellent. You get 5s from me, everybody. Thank you so much for your contributions to the chat, to the questions, and thanks to the speakers. And I hope you all found it interesting, inspiring. If you want to know more or learn more about clean tech innovations or hear more pitches, then you can tune in. We've got 4 Climate Launchpad regional finals coming up in September. So there you'll be able to hear pitches in all 8 themes, including blue economy, and hear the jury questions afterwards. And of course, we have the biggest event of the year, and that's the global final in November. If you're signed up to all of our social media, all of our newsletters, you'll be able to get the right calendar links and tune in links for that. That's it for me. Thank you to all of our speakers and for all of you for tuning in. See you soon, and looking forward to innovating together for a sustainable blue economy. See you later, and have a fantastic Friday and fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.